Hello, everybody, and welcome to Atheist Sunday School, your one-stop shop for everything Atheist Sunday and school. And boy, do we have a show for you today. Today we are beginning... Oh, so close.
Today we're beginning the fourth Psalter.
Yes, we are. That's what we're doing today.
Wow, isn't that incredible?
So far, the Psalms have had very few interesting things.
Yeah. There have been a couple of polytheistic stuff, but
Yeah, I did enjoy, the discussion on what it meant to be wicked in general, like earlier on. I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking a little bit about that today. So that's going to continue. But first thing is first, it is the beginning of a new month, so we do have to do the T-shirt giveaway.
So, Chris, why don't you get that up and
spin that wheel? And remember, if you would like the chance at winning a T-shirt, if you are a $10 patron or more, you get yourself a shirt.
It's the Landon one.
Wow, it lands on Landon.
There it is.
Just barely.
Landon, you get it.
That's why I gave you a hesitant answer. I have a smaller screen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Landon, you win, buddy. Again.
Wow. Well,
it's not rigged.
Yeah.
These are all weighted equally.
We might need to make a new T-shirt. Good
Maybe.
thing I gave you all those T-shirt ideas.
Yeah,
we have a bunch of them written down.
Yep.
Yeah.
At least 3 of them are mine.
So, let's hop into it. I got the King James Version of the Bible.
I have the English Standard Version.
We also have the Robert Alter version, translation with commentary, the Hebrew Bible.
We also have the Holy Scriptures according to some Jews and the New King James Version.
In addition to that, we have, but we'll never be using again, Sarna's on the Book of Psalms.
Yes, that's right. Sarna's on the Book of Psalms.
Which only covers up to this point.
Yeah, exactly.
It's done.
So, there's a little bit in here that I want to talk about, but not really that much because I'm not really a Sarna guy. But yeah, that's going to be the last time we're going to need that. We also have Psalms Old and New from Ben Witherington and The Origins of Biblical Monotheism from Marcus Smith.
As well as the Oxford Companion of the Bible and the NIV Old Testament Survey.
Yes, from the New Interpreter's Bible.
Yep.
I know you said NIV, but
yeah,
New Interpreter's Bible if you're looking for it.
NIV.
And I didn't even comment on this. We have Erdman's commentary on the Bible.
Oh, yeah, and we also have... I think that's...
that's
the Dead Sea Scrolls.
Yeah, we're going to need that way later.
Later.
At the very end of the Book of Psalms, we're going to be using that.
I'm surprised, frankly.
Why?
Well, you'd think that Psalms, lots of stuff. There's got to be some poetry.
Yeah, there is for the stuff at the very end, because this is the stuff that isn't technically biblical. There are references, but this is a
right, but older
forms
of the poems and stuff.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that wasn't in there, I guess. So, but we'll be getting to that at the very end. Either way, we can hop right into it.
Yeah, let's do it. All right. Starting the fourth Psalter. Is there anything that you want to say?
Yes, there are a few things I want to say about the beginning of the fourth Psalter. So this is from Erdman's here. It is impossible to establish whether this group of psalms originally formed a book on its own or whether it was part of the Psalter from the beginning. Another question is whether the psalms in this group are interrelated in any way, and if so, what the nature of the relationship is. Some scholars are of the opinion that the composition of this book follows a liturgical pattern, such as that of the Feast of Tabernacles. Another view is that a deliberate and precise structure and arrangement are discernible in the collection. There are a number of recurring themes in Book 4. Some of the most important themes are the kingship of the Lord's victory over the forces of chaos, the Lord as the universal creator who established the world, the Lord's judgment of the foreign nations and the wicked, and a retrospective account of the salvation history of Israel. Another characteristic of this collection is that it contains a number of untitled psalms.
They almost always have for David or for
yeah, almost always there are
somebody,
titles,
and
yeah.
it's usually on an obscure instrument every other time.
Sure, yeah.
I see a few titles.
Well, it contains a whole bunch of untitled ones.
Right.
This
I'm not saying it
this
contains
contributes
no titled work.
to a sense of unity in that there are no strict divisions between the psalms, since one psalm appears to flow into the next. So that does make sense, but I don't think that the fact that there are that there are very few titles actually helps anything, since the titles were just added
Honestly,
later.
it makes the questioning come up of the logic of their division in the first place. Why is it that they'd have to make those separate then? They've had longer psalms.
I'd also like to point out that book 4 of the Psalms.
It has 17 psalms. It's very short.
17?
Yeah.
This says 16. 107 is part of book 5, and it starts on 90. So,
Well, if it starts on 90, then it would be 17.
Yeah.
So on the Psalter, on this Psalter in general, I do want to comment here. This is from Witherington's book. In their discussion of the composition of Book 4 of the Psalter, Hosfield and Zenger made some salient points that are worth repeating. Number 1, Psalms 90 through 92 are transitional as the Psalter moves away from the Messianic Psalms to the God is King Psalms in Psalms 93 to 100, and we talked about that last week. 2, Psalms 90 to 92 need to be taken together as they share words and themes. 3, from Psalm 90 on to the end of the Psalter as a whole, the superscripts become irregular and they differ considerably. 4, possibly the superscript about Moses in Psalm 90 is meant as a header for the whole 4th book of the Psalter, because all of the references to Moses in the whole Psalter, save one, that's Psalm 77, come in this book of the Psalter. Noticing how there is an emphasis in the last psalm in the collection on Moses, just as the beginning of Psalm 90 leads with that thought. 5, it is possible that the original entire Psalter concluded with Psalm 100, which in any case takes up some of the themes and trajectories of Psalms 95, 96, and 98. Number 6, the 4th book, the 4-book Psalter ending with Psalm 100 was probably complete about the 4th century BCE. Some of this is pure conjecture, but some of it seems to be accurate. In any case, we must evaluate Psalms on an individual basis because none of the prehistory of their composition of the Psalter affects the way the New Testament writers use the material. Yeah. So then he goes on to talk about how they were used. But we are going to be referencing these books quite a bit more.
Throughout.
Yeah, definitely.
Yep. Well, should I get into it then?
I don't know.
Yeah,
I was thinking we talk more about this.
Okay. Psalm 90. Prayer of Moses, the man of God.
Yes, so there is definitely going to be some commentary on this.
Certainly. Obviously, Moses.
Very
we
important
all
guy.
know who Moses is.
Yeah.
Which one of those guys?
Oh, he's the one with the rod of God.
Yeah, that's the one. That's the guy.
Thanks. Inspirational.
This psalm is unique in attributing the text to Moses. Some interpreters have seen linguistic connections with the Song of Moses in Deuteronomy 32, but these are tenuous and, if they really exist, are very few. Given the focus of the psalm on the limitations of the human condition, the editor may have been thinking of the reiterated 0-degree epithet for the lawgiver, the man Moses. Moses is, the great founding leader, and yet but a man, granted the great lifespan of 120 years that would become proverbial, yet circumscribed by mortality, never to enter the promised land. Of the 8 times that the name Moses is mentioned in the Psalms, 7 occur in the 4th book of Psalms. So, yeah, that was already kind of hit on.
Of course, we know about the historic Moses.
Here's the thing. If someone wants to argue about the historic Moses, that's fine. I know people who do accept the historical Moses. And here's the thing. The only thing we can say about historical Moses is that he died.
Yeah, he died. If he existed, he died.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. So, anyways,
that's impressive. Who
yes.
doesn't do that at one point or another?
yeah, exactly. Yeah, and Psalm 90 is a communal lament.
A communal lament. Oof. That's
Ooh, I told you I
terrible.
was looking forward to those as opposed to those individual laments.
Oh, yes.
There's so much, worse.
Lord, thou hast been our dwelling place in all generations, before the mountains were brought forth, or ever thou hadst formed the earth and the world, even from everlasting to everlasting, thou art God. Thou turnest man to destruction, and sayest, Return, ye children of men. For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night.
Yeah, we've seen this theme pop up a lot in the Psalms, as well as in Job too, but that's just kind of part of wisdom literature in general. This whole thing of going to dust. We are all just dust in the wind, right? Yeah.
As a watch in the night. I assume what they mean is sundials, which they would use for time-telling devices.
That does
the
make
region.
sense, actually.
So at night, a watch won't tell time for them, I guess, unless they mean a different kind of watch.
I think there were handheld sundials,
There were handheld sundials.
and they were called watches. I
Were
do
they?
believe that.
I have no idea
I'm
about
con-
that. There's
I'm
not even a
old.
note on it.
Doesn't your
I'm
dad
80%
fix
confident.
watches?
Yes, he does.
Text your dad and ask him if handheld sundials are watches.
I don't know that he'd know that.
Yeah, I also don't know that he'd
I
know
don't even
that.
know that my dad would know that, and he's a historian.
Yeah, but he's not a watch guy.
No.
My dad likes to fix watches. He was a watchmaker.
Yeah.
Oh.
So he should know.
I don't think anyone ever brought in a
Lawrence,
sundial.
I
for
didn't
him.
know that. That makes me think your dad's a lot smarter. That's
Yeah.
a hard job.
It could be a group of guards, but
Yeah, that's true.
I don't see what the implication is if they're a group of guards, right? For 1,000 years in thy sight are but as yesterday when it is past, and as a watch in the night. So
That was verse 4, right?
yeah, verse 4.
Okay, I think there might be something on this then. So the second strophe is a lament on the transience of human beings. While God is everlasting, people are mortal beings who return to the dust. Human beings are likened to a passing dream. They are like the grass which is green in the morning, but wilts in the evening after the heat of the day.
That's a good point, though, with that group of guards idea.
But it doesn't tell me about the watch.
No, it doesn't, though.
Thou carriest them away as with a flood. They are as a sleep. They are as a sleep.
You engulf them with sleep.
Yeah. In the morning they are like grass which groweth up. In the morning it flourisheth, and groweth up. In the evening it is cut down and withereth. For we are consumed by thine anger, and by thy wrath are we troubled. Thou hast set our iniquities before thee, our secret sins in the light of thy countenance. For all our days are passed away in thy wrath. There's a smudge there.
A smudge?
Yeah, there's a smudge. Look at this. It makes the N look like eh.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh, my.
Weird.
It's
Is that
the
a
printing
misprint?
style. Probably.
It's
Oh,
definitely not the printing
man.
style that would be throughout then.
Yeah.
No, I meant like they had errors back then more
Mhm.
frequently. It could definitely just be that.
I wonder. Man, thy wrath. We spend our years as a tale that is told. The days of our years are 60 years and 10.
70 years?
I
Yeah,
guess.
that's 70 years. And that's interesting that they would pick 70.
And if by reason of strength they be 80 years, yet is their strength labor and sorrow. For it is soon cut off, and we fly away.
You know, remember early on when we learned that the oldest you could be was, what, 120?
20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's when Moses dies, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
He's
don't know.
the oldest you can be.
Yeah, but he's not, though, because there were people that were older.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
if you listen to the Chinese, there are people who've lived to be over 200.
Yeah.
I mean, there were some people who were grandfathered into these nice Eden-esque rules. You know, all the kids of Adam and stuff lived a really long time, except Abel, who died young.
Yeah. Anyway. So basically what they're saying is we live a long time and it sucks, but even if we live longer, we're just going to suffer because we're going to die at the end of that anyway. That's pretty pessimistic.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
this is a psalm. It is a
It's a
communal lament.
Yeah.
Communal laments. Yes.
Who knoweth the power of thine anger? Even according to thy fear, so is thy wrath. So teach us to number our days, that we may apply our hearts unto wisdom. Teach us to number our days. What is it? Is he seriously implying?
Here. Okay, so that was verse 12, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm starting a little bit earlier here. Who can know the strength of your wrath, as the fear of you is your anger, to count our days rightly, instruct that we may get a heart of wisdom. And the note here is, in effect, this is precisely what the poem as a whole, with its powerful images for representing the limitations of human existence over against God's eternal being, has achieved for its audience. So the whole thing is, he is the one that will decide the number of their days.
Mm-hmm. But the wording in the King James Version is terrible.
Oh, yeah, it's horrible. And for this section here,
This has got to be one of the best psalms.
Yeah.
No, I mean, just for me, I love bleakness. I don't know. It's
so
cool.
whereas the previous strophe was a lament, what we have here are petitions for the Lord's compassion. And of course, we've seen petitions come up a lot in these.
Yes.
And it seems kind of weird because, you talk this whole time about how great God is and about your prosperity, especially if you're good, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you're immediately asking that same God that you praise for being good to be better to you.
Yeah.
Hey, man, I know you're the greatest thing possible and all, but could you be
a little greater?
110% for me?
Oh, yeah,
Just
definitely.
for me, man.
Return, O Lord, how long? And let it repent thee concerning thy servants. O satisfy us early with thy mercy, that we may rejoice and be glad all our days. Make us glad according to the days wherein thou hast afflicted us, and the years wherein we have seen evil. Let thy work appear unto thy servants, and thy glory unto their children. And let the beauty of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish thou the work of our hands upon us. Yea, the work of our hands, establish thou it.
So here's something that I just thought was really interesting about the whole psalm. So the psalm forms an inclusio in that it is both introduced and concluded by the divine name Adonai.
Yep, Adonai, which means Lord.
Yeah, there are a lot of we're gonna see a lot of divine epithets here. And one of them that we're gonna run to is El Olam, which is usually translated as God everlasting, eternal God, and that comes up a lot in Canaanite mythology as well as another title for El.
Oh,
yeah. And, I should have brought it. I didn't, but I should have. And I was thinking about it this morning, but there's a book, if you haven't read it, Frank Moore Cross's Canaanite Myth and Hebrew Epic. It is really good. It is pretty old. But for what it is, it's great. Just go read it. It's fantastic.
I remember the El Olam. Yeah, I remember the El Olam bits from Hebrew prayers,
Oh, okay.
I have a Jewish liturgical book that has like prayers that they use. A few of them, actually. I could bring those in sometime.
That'd be
Sure.
neat.
That'd be great.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the end of Psalm 90. It has nothing to do with Moses.
Yeah.
Not
so
at all.
on
I'm super, except for the ending, basically. The mid part there, or at least the latter mid part,
yeah. So here's
was very nihilistic, and I enjoyed that. Yeah.
No, I would think that this would be like a prayer of Noah, right? Because
would
they
think, yeah, 'cause-
directly reference the flood in verse 5.
Sure, yeah.
Thou carriest them away as with a flood, right? And it's like this lament over all this like impermanence.
So there is a note on that. The title of Prayer of Moses, the Man of God, is not an indication of authorship. Duh. The psalm is probably attributed to Moses because of the similarities between Psalm 90 and Genesis 1 through 3. Genesis is also known as because it's the first book of Moses. Right, yeah. Which also contains references to the creation and ephemeral nature of human beings. Moses was known as a man of God. And yeah, of course, the reference to Deuteronomy there. And the fervor of his belief would correspond to the fervor of belief reflected in the psalm.
Excellent. Well, if you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like. It helps us out. And maybe share it around with your friends, family, neighbors. You know, if you have a pet turtle, you can print out the URL to our page on a piece of paper, tie it with rubber bands around the turtle, and then set it free.
Don't do that, please. Keep your pet turtle and don't completely destroy its livelihood.
Maybe someone will find it.
This is how you spread invasive species in Florida. Please don't release your pets. Thank you.
Okay. We don't know if you could hear that. Maybe some of it you heard.
Okay, yeah. Invasive species. Don't release your pets. Cause basic common sense.
Either way,
Yeah.
that was the end of Psalm 90. Let's hop into Psalm 91. I'll take that over.
All right.
Yeah, and there are going to be some notes that we're gonna cover afterwards here, or depending on if you want to look through something, let me know. But there are some notes in Witherington's that I thought were kind of neat, especially on Qumran. So,
All right. Well, before you get into that, why don't I read off a little bit from Eerdmans here about
Sure.
Psalm 91. Now, Psalm 91 shows strong similarities to sapiential texts such as Job 5:17 through 26 and Proverbs 3:21 through 26, where the motif of the complete protection afforded to the righteous by the Lord occurs. The contention that God affords complete protection does not, however, accord within the realities of life, for those who trust in the Lord are sometimes far worse off than the ungodly.
yeah.
Imagine you didn't know you were a Job.
Yeah. Psalm 91 should therefore not be interpreted as a literal and unconditional promise that nothing will ever go wrong for those who trust in the Lord. The psalm should rather be seen as a didactic wisdom text, which aims to persuade the reader to trust in the Lord in all circumstances.
So I'm going to read one little section here from Witherington. And it's specifically, that's so kind of you. Thank you. So one little section about this from Witherington about its inclusion in Qumran. Let's see. Golden Gate thinks the psalm may well have been meant to address the king, like Psalm 20, though it is generic enough that it could be used more broadly. The battle imagery favors having the king in mind, but there doesn't seem to be anything pressing militarily at the time of this poetic reflection. This is one of those psalms that shows up in the manuscripts from Qumran, in this case 11Q11. And the quotations are part of a larger document giving help to those plagued by demons. Psalm 91 has been adapted to deal with that theme. This is one of those cases where either through adaptation or looseness of quotation, there are quite a number of textual differences from the Masoretic text in the Qumran citations. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Mm.
But anyways, yes, here's this in case you want to flip through that. And
Okay, before we get into it, though, the psalm can be divided into 2 stanzas, namely verses 1 through 13 and 14 through 16. The first stanza can be subdivided into 4 strophes, 1 through 2, 3 through 6, 7 through 8, and 9 through 13.
all right.
Yeah.
Great. Let's continue here. Psalm 91. He who dwells in the shelter of the Most High.
This psalm is one of a number that have no superscription, though the Septuagint shows or adds a David psalm.
Yeah.
It also does not belong to any obvious cultic genre of psalms. The Israeli scholar Yair Hoffman, noting its eloquent expression of God's unflagging providential protection, has interestingly characterized the poem as an amulet psalm, with the idea that its recitation might help a person attain or perhaps simply feel God's guarding power.
Okay, so it's one of those, like, it's not like super ritualistic, but it is like a mini ritual, I guess.
Yeah, it's like a cantrip spell.
Like
You know what I mean?
rosaries and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, it's like
100 Hail Mary.
You know, it's like something
Hail Marys,
that
yeah.
someone might chant a few times around that magic circle that we made, right?
Sure.
Something like that. Also, about the Most High here.
Yeah. This is the psalm where we're going to see a lot of epithets. So afterwards,
Join us for our new series, Little Rituals.
so after we're done with this, I'm going to talk a little bit about Psalm 90 and Psalm 91 from Mark S. Smith.
All right, but
I would say though that many, if not a good percentage, of the Psalms are little rituals.
Yeah.
in
Well,
themselves.
yeah, they're
They're not just songs. They're
the,
kind of
the individual laments.
well, they're
A lot of those.
liturgical pieces.
yeah.
Sure.
But the names that we're going to see here are Most High, which is Elyon, the Almighty, which is Shaddai, the Lord, which is Yahweh, and my God, which is Elohe.
And also, Ted, we are going to, in fact, cover the quotation. So
Yes.
stay tuned.
Yes, we will.
Yeah, I'll
Carry
continue here.
on.
So the Most High will abide in the shadow of the Almighty. I will say to the Lord, my refuge and my fortress, my God in whom I trust.
So the Septuagint corrects this to he says of the Lord. Evidently, in the interest of consistency, such unmarked transitions from one speaker to another, it is now the man who shelters in God who speaks, are not uncommon in biblical literature. In fact, there are 3 speakers in the poem: the poet, verse 1, and verses 3 through 13, the man who trusts in God, verse 2, and God, verses 14 through 16.
So I'll continue here. For he will deliver you from the snare of the fowler and from the deadly pestilence. He will cover you with his pinions. And I think there should be a note on this.
Oh, there's a lot. There's a bit.
How about I finish
on
the
this.
verse?
Yeah, finish the
Yeah.
verse.
He will cover you with his pinions, and under his wings you will find refuge. His faithfulness is a shield and buckler.
Yeah. So
I think I was
Which one is it, a shield or a buckler?
I was looking through Alter's translation a little bit, and he was talking about the Shekinah, I think.
yeah. So Eerdmans doesn't really comment on this. It says, well, Eerdmans says that it's essentially just talking about God protecting people.
Well, sure.
Alter says it may be misguided to conclude that God is imagined as a large mother bird.
Well, yeah.
The sheltering care of the bird for fledglings is a recurrent biblical image for solicitous protection. Thus, the poem's metaphor refers to the function, not to the imagined appearance of the deity.
Yeah, because we get a lot of descriptions like that about like the womb of God and stuff like that. Like that's obviously supposed to be metaphorical.
I hope so.
When they reference God being a he all the time, and capitalize he,
very
like yeah,
peculiar he. If they've got a womb that isn't metaphorical,
I don't think I don't think God's trans or anything. So
But-
no, I feel like they genied it into existence, snapped their fingers, wiggled their nose, and that's how humans showed up or something.
But such metaphorical usages may have had something to do with the later representation of the Shekinah, the feminine manifestation of the deity, by Jews, and the Holy Spirit by Christians as a dove.
yeah, that was obviously way later.
Yeah, and this Shekinah, is there anything in the Oxford Companion to the Bible?
Probably. I know I was reading kind of recently. It was Raphael Patai's book on the Hebrew goddess, and he talks about the Shekinah. But the thing about Raphael Patai and other religious scholars is that they like to make connections where there aren't necessarily connections. So while he does have a discussion on it, it wasn't really pertinent to the subject I was covering.
The first letter of the newspaper today was a T, so we're gonna have a good broadcast today.
Great, amazing, thank you.
Isn't that great?
Yes, that is the most amazing thing I've ever heard. Yeah, I'll look for it. Actually, if you want to look for it, I'll keep reading.
The Shekinah.
Yeah.
Got enough
Anyways.
books?
No, not quite. You will not fear the terror of the night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that stalks in darkness, nor the destruction that wastes at noonday. 1,000 may fall at your side, 10,000 at your right hand. Ooh, that's some David and Saul stuff. But
yeah, definitely David and Saul stuff. Though 1,000 fall at your side, there's a note in Alter that says, in all likelihood, the setting evoked is a raging epidemic in which vast numbers of people all around are fatally stricken. The images of martial danger, however, introduced by the flying arrow of verse 5 and the shield and buckler of verse 4, is superimposed on the image of danger from the plague. Life imagined as a battlefield fraught with dangers.
and I think there should be a note in Erdman's about the night terror here, or the terror of the night. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I do remember something in the Torah, or maybe it was in Judges very early on, where someone was having a night terror. And I may be confusing it with Jacob's dream.
There had to be something. I remember something.
Yeah,
like
about
that.
a night terror.
Yeah.
I
don't remember
I'm blanking
where.
on
It
it.
has
So
been a while, guys.
yeah, so hopefully
Neither
someone
do
can.
I.
Yeah.
Hopefully someone can refresh our memory on that.
Yeah. If you know what we're talking about, night terrors in the Bible,
Yeah.
bring it up. But I don't see anything on this specifically. But tell
okay.
me when you get to.
I sort of recall that it had something to do with evil spirit sent by someone or God, maybe.
I remember the evil spirit sent by God, but I don't think it was.
I feel
that
like it
one.
had to do with the nightmare terror. I do in one of the translations, if not multiple. I don't know.
Mm.
Either way, I'm sure someone will clear it up eventually.
Continue, Ruben. Sorry.
Anyway, I'll have a lot to go over as we go through, but I don't see anything on this specifically.
Okay. You will only look with your eyes and see the recompense of the wicked, because you have made the Lord your dwelling place, the Most High, who is my refuge. No evil shall be allowed to befall you. No plague come near your tent.
Oxford Companion of the Bible does not have anything on Shekinah.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair enough. Shekinah's not actually in the Bible.
That book never does anything.
Yeah, we tried.
Tried. Failed.
Either way. All right. Let's see. Where was I? No plague will come near your tent. For he will command his angels concerning you, to guard you in all your ways. On their hands they will bear you up, lest you strike your foot against a stone. I'm guessing that's just supposed to mean some sort of obstacle.
What verse is that?
11?
That is my verse 12.
Okay.
The literal sense of the verb is bump against.
Okay.
In a rocky landscape of the Judahite hills, in which there were no paved roads until the Romans introduced them, this image of a person lifted up on the palms of divine messengers to protect him from all painful stumbling has particular force. It is also
Neat.
a concrete focusing of guard you on all your ways at the end of the previous line.
I like his phrasing. It's all about stones and stuff. Concrete focus.
Yeah, we know you like stones.
Yeah. But for verse 11, I'm not sure if this is referring to the same verse 11, but it says angels in verse 11 in
Yes,
this version.
it does say angels here as well.
Right. And in verse 11 here, it does say his messengers, but Eerdmans says the metaphors and images transcend earthly life, e.g. angels, and evoke associations with mythological aspects, e.g. serpent in the new NRSV, which could be better translated as dragon. Also seen in Psalm 74:13.
And we did cover that.
Yeah.
And also, thank you, Johnny, whatever you want to go by. Thank you. That does clear it up. I'm checking back here, and maybe that was it. I'm not sure. Either way, let's continue.
Yep.
You will tread on the lion and the adder, the young lion and the serpent you will trample underfoot, because he holds fast to me in love. I will deliver him. I will protect him because he knows my name. When he calls to me, I will answer him. I will be with him in trouble. Yeah, I'll be with him in trouble. That makes sense. I will rescue him and honor him. With long life, I will satisfy him and show my salvation. So,
Okay.
yeah, that's the end of that one. But we do want to cover a few things.
There's
here.
a few things in here, too.
Sure, go ahead.
But mainly, the psalm does not promise that believers will have a carefree existence. The function of Psalm 91 is rather to appeal to people and persuade them to have complete trust in God. In view of the sapiential characteristics of this psalm, it probably dates from the post-exilic period.
Fair enough. And here is actually the discussion that I wanted to talk about when it comes to the quotation in the New Testament.
Mm-hmm.
At Matthew 26:53, I think this is going to be the right verse. I'm just checking a little bit forward. I'm not sure. I'll just continue reading.
You said Matthew.
Well, I'm just getting through it, but it is relevant still. So at Matthew 26:53, Jesus states boldly that if he wished, he could ask God to send him 12 legions of angels to defend him and protect him. But to do so would prevent the scripture being fulfilled. A legion, strictly speaking, had 5,120 men in it, and 12 legions would be well over 61,000 angels. I bring this up because the psalmist talks in terms of numbers. 1,000 may fall on one side, 10,000 at your right hand, but you will be untouched in the fray. Why? Because God will send his angels to protect the psalmist.
Yeah.
And then
That's a very large number.
So
Does
this
that number have any significance? I don't know. I doubt it.
So for reference, this part in Matthew, this guy pulls out a sword, right? And Jesus is like, put your sword in its place, for all who take the sword will perish by the sword. Or do you think that I cannot now pray to my Father, and he will provide me with more than 12 legions of angels?
Yeah. Yes. Okay, I'm going to continue here. What makes this whole scenario especially intriguing is several things. First of all, we have here a battle of the Bible verses, and it is Satan, no less, who is quoting bits of Psalm 91 and other Psalms, with Jesus rebutting with various verses from Deuteronomy. Satan is using the citation to try and tempt Jesus into being what Mencken calls, quote, some kind of messianic stuntman instead of the obedient Son of God. Even more to the point, Jesus reminds Satan that no one should put God to the test, which implies at least a particular image of how Jesus viewed himself in this encounter. Some have tried to suggest that Jesus is presented here as Israel in the wilderness, passing the test that the Israel in Exodus failed. The problem with this analysis is fourfold. Jesus says he is being tempted as God, and Satan should not tempt God. Two, the issue is whether or not Jesus is the Son of God, not whether he is true Israel or the son of David. And then he has, a bunch of other things. But then he goes on to say, there are further interesting aspects about the citation of Psalm 91:11 by Satan. He omits the phrase, in all your ways, from the psalm. And then on its significance, he says commentators have been divided on this point, and the answer is not clear. Even more intriguing is the fact that this scripture is being cited as a justification to get Jesus to jump off the pinnacle of the temple to demonstrate he is the Son of God. Now, the word for pinnacle, I'm going to read this. It's in Greek. Toterugion. I probably butchered that. In Greek is a variant of the word for pinions in Greek, which is terugas, which we had pinions before in the last one.
Yeah.
Further, the temple was, of course, seen as the locale where God's presence could especially be encountered. Is jumping off the pinnacle like rejecting the protection of the pinions of Yahweh and so putting God to the test? Second, and perhaps just as fascinating, is the fact that this very verse from Psalm 91 was used in, this word, apotropaic collections. It's right there. Apotropaic collections, and in the magical papyri to protect people from Satan and demons. So that is neat.
I would have to check the magical papyri. We should get that. There's
some magical papyri, yeah.
There's copies of some Greek
I'm
and
sure
Egyptian
there is, yeah.
magical papyri. Yeah. But
yeah, and then Psalm, and I still have a couple more things to cover, man. So Psalm 91:13 promises that one trusting God will, quote, trample under the foot the serpent. We have an allusion or direct echo of this in Luke 10:19, where Jesus promises his 70 emissaries, see, I have given you authority to tread on snakes and scorpions and over all the power of eternity. So that's just some more interesting stuff. But, sorry, there is more to cover.
Oh, we're going into
damn.
the origins of biblical monotheism now.
Yes. So this will be, I know that we're already kind of dry. The show is pretty dry sometimes in general. Mm-hmm. Smith makes it more dry, but you know what? It's some really good information, so we can't really pass it up. So this is in, let's see, what's the section? L in the Iron Age, or L in Iron Age Israel. So, at some point, a number of Israelite traditions identified El with Yahweh or presupposed this equation. The Hebrew Bible rarely distinguishes between El and Yahweh or offers polemics against El. West Semitic El lies behind the God of the patriarchs in Genesis. Later tradition clearly intended that this God be identified as Yahweh. For example, the priestly theological treatment of Israel's early religious history in Exodus 6:2-3 identifies the old god El Shaddai with Yahweh. and here's the quotation, "And God said to Moses, I am Yahweh. I appeared to Abraham, to Isaac, and to Jacob as El Shaddai. But my name, Yahweh, I did not make myself known to them." This passage shows that Yahweh was, and of course this is relevant because of all the names of God that we went over. This passage shows that Yahweh was unknown to the patriarchs. Rather, they are depicted as worshippers of El. In Israel, El's character and epithets became part of the repertoire of descriptions of Yahweh. Like El in the Ugaritic text, Yahweh is described as an aged patriarchal god. And this is where we start getting stuff about El Olam. Enthroned amidst the assembly of divine beings. We've talked about that quite a bit. Later biblical texts continued the notion of aged Yahweh enthroned before the heavenly host. That's in Daniel, for example. He is enthroned amid the assembly of heavenly hosts, called in verse 18 in the reference in Daniel 7, the holy ones of the Most High. This description for the angelic host derives from the older usage of Hebrew kedosim, holy ones, used for the divine council. And then to continue here a little bit. The tradition of the enthroned bearded god also appears in a Persian period coin marked Yehud. The iconography belongs to a god, possibly Yahweh. D.V. Edelman has studied the depictions of deities and symbols on coins from the Persian period through the Hasmonean period. She concludes that the late Persian period coins are the first to show any avoidance of depiction of gods other than Yahweh in non-cultic contexts. As this single example indicates, Yahweh is evidently represented. Based on this part of Edelman's study and the reference in Judges 17 to an image, apparently of Yahweh, one might be inclined to suggest that ancient Israel tolerated some images of Yahweh outside of the national shrines and condemned images of other deities. In short, the prohibition of images of other deities seems to reflect a general worship of Yahweh that discouraged worship of other deities. So, henotheism. So I thought that was super interesting. We've talked about that quite a bit in general.
Yeah, we have.
Yeah. And I covered kind of those ideas in my golden calf video as well.
Yeah, you did. And if you haven't seen that golden calf video, after this, you should go check it out. But that is the end of Psalm 91.
Yes, it is.
If you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, share, comment, do all the things.
Subscribe if you haven't.
If you're in contact with the universal entity that describes all aspects of our existence, please tell him that, or her, or it, we don't know, that we'd like it to watch this, and it could tell everyone else to do the same.
Yeah, do that. All right. Anyways, hopping into Psalm 92.
Psalm 92, a psalm or song for the Sabbath day, which, was yesterday.
Yeah, that's true. It is a reasonable inference that this psalm was actually sung as part of the temple rite for the Sabbath. In post-biblical Judaism, it was included in the Sabbath liturgy, and 6 other psalms were chosen for recitation on each of the 6 other days of the week. And actually, Sarna does actually hit on that.
Oh, no.
I know. You can continue reading. I'll find the part that I have to.
All right. It is a good thing to give thanks unto the Lord and to sing praises unto thy name, O Most High, to show forth thy loving kindness in the morning and thy faithfulness every night. Upon an instrument of 10 strings and upon the psaltery, upon the harp with a solemn sound. For thou, Lord, hast made me glad through thy work. I will triumph in the works of thy hands. O Lord, how great are thy works, and thy thoughts are very deep. A brutish man knoweth not, neither doth a fool understand this. When the wicked spring as the grass, and when all the workers of iniquity do flourish, it is they that shall be destroyed forever.
So, of course, we've gotten the grass metaphor earlier today.
When did
Yeah.
Ruben shift into Southern lawyer accent? It was kind of funny.
The wicked flourish for a short while, for they are like green grass, which soon becomes parched and is doomed to certain destruction. In contrast, the righteous flourish as a palm tree does.
Yep. Palm trees.
They
Great.
They flourish.
I guess they do. Not a lot of palm trees here in Milwaukee, though.
Yeah, not really any, unless
No.
Flourish here.
No, I don't think they flourish here.
no.
But thou, Lord, art most high forevermore. For lo, thine enemies, O Lord, for lo, thine enemies shall perish. All the workers of iniquity shall be scattered. But my...
Damn it. Yours says for low. Mine has two beholds.
Wow. Behold, behold.
Behold.
Oh,
Wonderful.
Jeez. Okay.
And this line is going to be so much better in the King James Version than in any of the other versions.
Okay.
But my horn shall thou exalt like the horn of a unicorn. I shall be anointed with fresh oil.
Yeah, obviously that's more entertaining in the King James. Let's let's see the note on that, because if there isn't, I'm going to be kind of mad. Which verse was that?
Verse 10, my horn shall be anointed.
Oh yeah, and you raise up my horn like the wild ox. I am soaked in fresh oil.
Ooh.
Boo. Either way.
Yep. Wow. That sucks.
Although this is interesting on the verse previously. For look your enemies, O Lord, for look your enemies perish. The use of incremental repetition in these two verse sets harks back to the earliest stratum of biblical poetry, as for example in the Song of Deborah. In fact, a line occurs in one of the Ugaritic poems that is very close in language and structure to this one, although with Baal as the deity addressed rather than Yahweh.
That's interesting.
Hey, usually Lawrence says, "Here's something interesting," and
Mine eyes also shall see my desire on mine enemies, and mine ears shall hear my desire of the wicked that rise up against me. The righteous shall flourish like the palm tree. He shall grow like a cedar in Lebanon. Those that be planted in the house of the Lord shall flourish in the courts of our God. They shall still bring forth fruit in old age. They shall be fat and flourishing. So like Sarah.
Yeah. And not just that, but they're still going to be very useful, I guess, in general.
Yes. To show that the Lord is upright, he is my rock, and there is no unrighteousness in him.
I liked Alter's translation. He's my rock. There is no wrong in him, which is a little different. So, a little note here. The expression of confidence in 92:15 is
the end of 92.
Yeah.
Wow. All right.
Yeah. And 92:15 is the highlight of the psalm and forms an inclusio with the beginning of the psalm, not only because the psalm begins and ends with the name of the Lord, but because the same Hebrew verb, neged, is used for showing in verse 15 and declare in verse 2. To proclaim that the Lord is upright is regarded as the chief purpose of the righteousness. So that's that one.
But your lame Bible didn't have unicorns in it.
You know, at least it had behold.
Septuagint says unicorn.
Well, whatever. Anyways, so that was the end of 92, right?
Yeah, if you're enjoying the stream so far, give us a like, subscribe, comment, share, make paper airplanes. And
Throw them at people.
Throw them at people. Chuck paper airplanes with our URL.
What's the
out
thing
your
with
windows.
your URL on paper?
Well,
man.
it's
I
the
tried to-
least convenient way to
Yeah,
do it.
No,
But
you know what you should do? Inscribe it in stone.
Yes. Yes, make a several $1,000 obelisk and just put down Atheist Sunday School episodes in order. Thank you.
That's a great idea.
Yes, if you erect an obelisk in our honor, well,
We'll share it.
We'll be impressed. We'll show a picture of
Not
it.
even, I'll go see it. Shit, I don't know. It depends on where it is.
Anyways, so this one's going to be very short.
Yes.
Psalm 93. The Lord reigns. He is robed in majesty. The Lord is robed. He has put on strength as his belt. Yes, the world is established. It shall never be moved. Your throne is established from of old. You are from everlasting.
On the first verse, he's clothed and stuff.
Sure.
So it starts with
robed in majesty, of course.
Yeah, it starts with the Lord reigns. It says, this brief, powerful psalm begins without superscription. It is clearly one of a group of psalms that celebrate God's kingship. The once popular notion put forward by Sigmund Maunkel in the early 20th century that it is the liturgy for an annual festival in which Yahweh, Yud-He, Vav-He, was enthroned, has come more and more to seem like a scholarly exercise in historical fiction because there is no evidence for the existence of such a rite in ancient Israel. God's grandeur as king of all the world would have been a perfectly appropriate theme for a Hebrew poet without a cultic apparatus. Furthermore, he says about the Lord reigns in triumph, clothed. It says the Hebrew geut covers a range from splendor, grandeur, and greatness to the image of surging high, as it is used in the Song of the Sea, playing against the sense of the term as tide, as is evidently the case in this poem as well.
So, the floods have lifted up, O Lord. The floods have lifted up their voice. The floods lift up their roaring.
The rising waters of the sea. It is not until the end of the second verset that the verb receives an object, their voice or their sound, which turns it into an idiom used for human speech. An antithesis to the firmly founded world and divine throne of the two previous verses. Although this poem may glance back, as many scholars have proposed, to Canaanite cosmogonic myths of the conquest of a primordial sea monster, the mythology is no more than a distant memory here. Indeed, the idea that God is forever because all national entities before all national entities is an implicit argument against a primordial battle of the gods. This notion of creation is assuring the safety and firmness of the land against the sea, and is one that makes special sense for a culture flourishing along the edge of the Mediterranean. In biblical idiom, the Great Sea. The waves pounding against the shore are a reminder of the precarious existence of the land dwellers, but God's majestic power, far greater than even the power of the sea, is a reassuring guarantee of the stability of civilized life. The forceful use of incremental repetition in this line, the streams lifted up their voice, the streams lifted up their roaring, may be deliberately deployed to suggest wave-like movement in the formal pattern of the verse.
So I'm going to finish this, and then we can talk a little bit about the...
Maybe you can see it.
What?
I don't know.
Oh, what's the name there?
Antina, I guess is all I got.
Thank you for
abandoning God, Antina.
Yes,
Yep.
very good.
So yeah, I'm going to finish this this section, this chapter, I guess, this psalm, and then we can talk a little bit about the dating. Mightier than the thunders of many waters, mightier than the waves of the sea. The Lord on high is mighty. Your decrees are very trustworthy. Holiness befits your house, O Lord, forevermore. I feel like this was probably part of like one of those temple inaugurations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like with Ezra and Nehemiah. So I feel like this is post-exilic.
Maybe.
Because now they're back in Israel. There's all this sea imagery again, and they're talking about holiness befitting his house, for being forevermore. And they're talking about, the God being as a king. So I feel like, after the exile, there wasn't really a king. So it would make sense to place it that way.
Yeah. Let me go through Eerdmans here because I haven't read anything from it while you were covering that. Let me just start off right at the beginning here. Psalm 93 is part of a group of Psalms, 93, 96 through 99, also 47, in which the expression, the Lord is king, occurs. The question regarding these Psalms is whether the verb should be translated as durative, the Lord is king / the Lord reigns, or an ingressive, the Lord has become king. Without rehashing the long and complicated debate on the question, it may be said that Moenkel was one of the main proponents of the ingressive meaning. His hypothesis is that a New Year's festival took place in Israel in autumn, and that the Lord's enthronement as king was celebrated annually at that time. According to Moenkel, this festival was celebrated by analogy with the Babylonian festival honoring the ascension to the throne of the god Marduk. This group of psalms is sometimes also given an eschatological interpretation, in that it is said to be concerned with the establishment of the Lord's kingship at the end of the world. Historical interpretation of these psalms is another possibility. Some exegetes have tried to link individual psalms with specific historical events. The point of view adopted here is that the expression, the Lord is king, should be given a durative interpretation. It should, however, not be treated as a static theological concept, but as an expression of the belief of God's people that he is always in control. It would appear that the expression, the Lord is king, was used most frequently in the post-exilic period, when the Judean monarchy no longer existed and there was therefore no longer an earthly king on the throne. And it goes into say a little about the second strophe, about the floods being primeval chaos.
Sure.
Right, but obviously, as I read with altar...
Yeah, that was a distant memory.
Yeah, distant memory. So if you go with the Eerdmans interpretation, it's a lot more Jordan Peterson-esque. But yeah, that's all I wanted to cover from these.
Great. Do you hear something?
I do hear something. It's almost as if it's Jesus.
It's almost as if it's happening.
It's happening. Ah!
Behold, I am your Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ, and I want to let all you heathens and sinners know that I support this wonderful episode of Atheist Sunday School. Lawrence and Reuben try their very best to bring you the true glory of the Bible, and they need your help. They have provided links to their Patreon page and other social media just for you. Once again, my name is Jesus Christ, and this is Milwaukee Atheists. The Lord is with them. God bless.
Wow. Thank you, Jesus. That was fantastic.
As per usual, Ruben's been taken away.
Yeah, Ruben's just gone. Hopefully when he comes back, maybe he'll tell us all about Jesus and God, and I mean, I doubt that they took him up to heaven.
No, he's just
he's checking out hell,
Shoal.
Maybe purgatory. I don't know.
Those other areas of Shoal, yeah. We don't know which one. We're not going to make any
yes,
judgment.
Maya. Reuben has in fact been raptured by Jesus. But he comes back because they realize that
it
was a mistake. They shouldn't have done it. It was a bad move.
Oh, it's coming. He's coming back.
Oh! You weren't raptured,
Whoa.
or did they try again and kick you out?
You know how Enoch went on all those journeys?
Ah, okay.
Somebody's got to do that.
You went on one of those journeys.
Yeah, I went on. You know what I saw this time?
What's that?
I saw a lamb, and there was a shepherd who was guiding the lamb.
Wow.
And the lamb was Israel.
Oh.
And I was the shepherd.
Ah!
Yeah, no. Man, that Jesus movie sucked. We
Well, the
were-
3-hour thing we tried to get, we got an hour and 40 in.
Yeah, we got over halfway through the Gospel of John, the 2003 feature-length film. It was bad.
It was really bad.
It was so
They had, and I shit you not.
Dude, the
they
dude
had,
was smiling so uncannily.
yes,
It
but
was
no,
awful.
that's not even the thing. The thing that got me was they were doing the whole like wedding at Cana thing where, Jesus turns water into wine. In order to show you that he had turned water into wine, they had a plastic cup.
a red one, just a normal party cup.
a
clear
plastic cup.
Oh.
And the rest of the cups were all like clay.
Clay, yeah.
Everything was reasonable in that scene except for the clear plastic cup.
It was good stuff.
Yeah.
Horrible movie. Don't watch it.
Horrible movie. Now, just watch when Atheist Sunday School does the Gospel of John.
Yeah.
It'll be much better. Anyway, Psalm 94. Anything you want to do right off the bat before we get into it? Or
I do not think so, no.
all
It's
right.
named?
No.
Oh,
not
it's
named.
one of the unnamed ones. All right.
O Lord God, to whom vengeance belongeth. O God, to whom vengeance belongeth, show thyself. We have another one of these repetitions like before, how there was that watery
Yeah.
thing.
And the whole thing about vengeance here is,
rocks.
it's we get the wrath of God stuff a lot. But in this, it's going to be stressed that it is specifically
Vengeance.
in response to the wicked.
Yeah. Lift up thyself, thou judge of the earth. Render a reward to the proud. Lord, how long shall the wicked triumph? How long shall they utter and speak hard things?
Oh man, that was difficult.
So, hold on. How long shall they utter and speak? How long, the wicked, O Lord, how long will the wicked exult? Was that the verse? I think.
Yeah.
Verse 3.
Speak. Verse 4.
They utter arrogance, speak it, all the wrongdoers. Oh, yeah. All the
And-
wrongdoers bandy boasts. What? Bandy
worse.
boasts?
Bandy boasts. Wonderful. We need a T-shirt. Bandy boasts.
Okay. Hold on. Let's look at another translation. That was 94 4. Okay. They pour out their arrogant words, all the evildoers boast. That just makes more sense.
Yeah.
Okay.
It says.
They brag. You can just say they brag.
Of course. How long shall they utter and speak hard things? And all the workers of iniquity boast themselves. They break in pieces thy people, O Lord, and afflict thine heritage. They slay the widow and the stranger, and murder the fatherless.
Yeah, so here's a note on this. The conduct of the evildoers is described in hard hyperbolic terms: crush, afflict, kill, and murder, to emphasize further the severity of their offense. The offense of the wicked is that they exploit and crush defenseless people, the widow, the orphan, the stranger, who are the very ones who deserve protection.
Yet they say, the Lord shall not see, neither shall the God of Jacob regard it. Understand, ye brutish among the people, and ye fools, when will ye be wise? He that planted the ear, shall he not hear? He that formed the eye, shall he not see? He that chastiseth the heathen, shall not he correct? He that teacheth man knowledge, shall not he know? The Lord knoweth the thoughts of man, that they are vanity.
Ah, Ellis. Thank you. Yes, thank you for the
very
$20,
much.
Alice.
Thank you very much.
Wow, we must be over 100 or 500 now.
I think so, yeah.
We're definitely over 100
Yeah.
on our
And-
alchemy drive.
Yes, our alchemy drive. If you want to see us do alchemy, once we hit $666.
Or you genuinely want to support us in a weird way with super chats, thank you very much.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
fantastic.
Thank you
Thank you so
very
much.
much.
Anyways, behold for the unicorn.
Behold.
We didn't read it.
For
Behold.
the unicorn. Yeah. So again, we have this omniscient God,
Yeah.
which isn't the God of Genesis at all. So
Yeah, you were at...
shall he not know? The Lord knoweth the thoughts of man, that they are vanity. Blessed is the man whom thou chastise, thou
Are you doing good?
chastenest.
What?
chastenest.
Whoa.
Chastenest.
I
Okay.
Chastenest.
Okay. Happy the man whom Yah chastises, and whom from his teachings he instructs. And of course, they're using Yah here,
Yeah.
short form for Yahweh.
Yeah. Blessed is the man whom thou chastenest, O Lord, and teachest him out of thy law, that thou mayest give him rest from the days of adversity until the pit be digged for the wicked. So, graves, obviously. For the Lord will not cast off his people, neither will he forsake his inheritance. But judgment shall return unto the righteous, and all the upright in heart shall follow it. Who will rise up for me against the evildoers? Or who will stand up for me against the workers of iniquity? Unless the Lord had been my help, my soul had almost dwelt in silence when I said, my foot slippeth. Thy mercy, O Lord, held me up. In the multitude of my thoughts, within me thy comforts delight my soul. Shall the throne of iniquity have fellowship with thee, which frameth mischief by a law? They gather themselves together against the soul of the righteous and condemn the innocent blood. But the Lord is my defense, and my God is the rock of my refuge. And he shall bring upon them their own iniquity, and shall cut them off in their own wickedness. Yea, the Lord our God shall cut them off. That's the
Epic.
end.
Loved it.
You don't usually get to read that passionately, but I guess it
That was
rather
great.
coherent. Very
That was
good.
amazing.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't really have any commentary to
Yeah, there
offer
wasn't
on it
really that
'cause
much. It was pretty self-explanatory.
It's pretty straightforward.
Yeah. Though the one thing here that Erdman's notes is that Psalm 94 should not be interpreted as an unqualified promise that things will always go well for the righteous. The function
I
of the
was
psalm.
just going to remark, yeah, those God promises, they're pretty flaky
Yeah.
in the beginning.
The function of the psalm is to comfort righteous people who have been wronged and support them in facing their difficulties. They've had a lot of difficulties.
Yes, they have. Well, let's hop right into Psalm 95.
Yes, and for Psalm 95, before I begin reading it, I just want to cover a section here from Psalms Old and New by Witherington. It's pretty short here.
All right.
The Septuagint adds the superscript telling us that the psalm pertains to David, but some scholars have suggested this psalm probably dates to the renewal of Yahwism under Josiah's reforms. The psalm is generic enough that the dating doesn't particularly help us with or affect the interpretation of the psalm's meaning, but it's always helpful to know a date, I think. God's people have always been struggling with fidelity issues, not to mention willingness to participate in wholehearted worship. The Septuagint also alters the way the psalm may be perceived by translating "let us kneel" in verse 6 as "we will weep," turning the whole thing into a penitential psalm as a response to the infidelity of God's people, past and present.
All right.
So I thought that was just important to get that out of the way.
Mhm.
And let's hop right into Psalm 95.
So Psalm 95 is an exhortation. The function of the psalm could be summed up in the words of verse 7b, "Oh, that today you would listen to his voice." The psalm consists of 2 stanzas, verses 1 through 7a and 7b through 11, both of which contribute to the admonitory character of this psalm.
How often did they have A and B for a...
Oh, no. So A and B are how scholars distinguish it, because there's like the first half of it and the second half of it.
Okay, so I'm assuming that it has A and B based off of subsegments of already pre-described.
Right.
By A, they mean the first line.
I
By
got
B,
you.
yeah.
Okay, it's interesting that comes up. I just hadn't heard that referred to yet. So I
Like
thought I'd make
we've
a
done
note
that
there.
plenty. Like, just for an example, and I'll,
Well, I kind of got it, but you feel free.
yeah. So, for example, I'm just going to read 95 and I'll break it up here. Oh, come, let us sing to the Lord. Let us make a joyful noise to the rock of our salvation. So of course, hold on just a second, Ruben.
Yeah.
So 95A, sorry, 95-1A would obviously be, oh, come, let us sing to the Lord. And then B is the rest of it.
Gotcha, because there's 2 definite separate statements.
Yeah.
So,
Gotcha. Okay, that's fine. It made sense to me, but good for the audience. Now they know.
So about this first line, without superscription, like the rest of the sequence of Psalms from 93 to 99, with the marginal exception of 98, the first-person plural exhortation to sing suggests that this is a public celebration of God.
Yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that is, of course, part of the reason why Witherington points out that many scholars think it was written during Josiah's reforms.
Mm-hmm.
Let us come into his presence with thanksgiving. Let us make a joyful noise to him with songs of praise. For the Lord is a great God and a great King above all gods.
So about this Thanksgiving thing,
Sure.
Alter says a claim. He says the Hebrew todah, as elsewhere in Psalms, straddles acclaim and thanksgiving. Some interpreters think it refers here to the Thanksgiving sacrifice because the idiom used for greet, kadem et pene, is sometimes linked with sacrifice. However, the strong poetic parallelisms with songs, woven in a tight chiastic pattern, greet A in acclaim, B in songs, B submarker 1, shout out A submarker 1, are used against this understanding.
In his hand are the depths of the earth. The heights of the mountains are also his. The sea is his, for he made it. And his hands formed the dry land. Really, the creative power of God comes through here. And that's why they should be thankful.
Yes.
Oh, come, let us worship and bow down. Let us kneel before the Lord our Maker. And that's, of course, where the Septuagint translates it as weep.
Yes.
For he is our God, and we are the people of his pasture, and the sheep of his hand today. If
Wait,
you...
Hold on a sec. You're at the end of verse 7 here?
Yes, I'm coming at very close to it. Today, if you hear his voice, that's the end of verse 7.
Okay. Although this sentence appears at the end of the verse, according to the conventional verse breaks, it is actually the initial verse set of a new triadic line that continues in verse 8. It marks an abrupt pivot in the poem.
Yeah, the thing is, it definitely should be part of verse 8, but why would it be divided like that?
Well, I'm going to
Scribal error, not tribal error.
I'm going to read a bit from Eerdmans here that goes over this.
Okay.
The first stanza, 95, 1 through 7a, consists of 2 strophes, 1 through 5 and 6 through 7a, which have a parallel construction in the sense that they both contain hymnic invocations followed by the advancement of reasons why the Lord should be praised. In verse 1 and 3, in verses 1 and 6, "O come, let us sing," and "O come, let us worship." In verses 3 and 7a, for the Lord is a great God, and for he is our God. Verses 1 through 2 of the first strophe, 95, 1 through 5, are a hymnic invocation in the form of an imperative, and for cohortatives in the first person plural, enjoining the people to praise the Lord exuberantly. The reasons for the invocation to praise are given in verses 3 through 5. The first reason why the Lord should be praised is that he is a great God and a great king above all gods. The latter expression is most probably comes from a polytheistic background and is used to indicate the powerlessness of the gods. The second reason why the Lord should be praised is that he is the creator, where verse 4 embodies a vertical view of the world with depths of the earth and heights of the mountains. Verse 5 reflects a horizontal view, sea and dry land. This polarity emphasizes the all-encompassing sovereignty of the Creator God, who has made everything with his hands. By repeating the word great twice, the poet further emphasizes the praiseworthiness of the Lord. The second strophe, 95, 6 through 7a, follows the same pattern as the first. The creation tradition is advanced as the reason why the Lord should be thanked. And that's all it says about this section that we have here. So I'm assuming that the reason that it was cut off here was for the purpose of some poetic parallelism.
Sure.
That isn't apparent in the English.
So here might be something, and it might help a little bit. Verse 7c suddenly exclaims, "Oh, that today you would listen to his voice." This is very much like the summons at Sinai in Exodus 19:5, and also the more familiar one at Deuteronomy 6:4. That Israel has to be exhorted in strong terms to listen intently to God suggests that they are too often focused on themselves or are distracted with mundane things. This psalm goes directly into a divine oracle with Yahweh speaking. So I think that might be part of the reason, because it's a totally new thing coming up afterwards.
There's a little more in Eerdmans. It says the second stanza, 7b through 11, is introduced by a prophetic admonition, "Oh, that today you would listen to his voice." Verse 7b is a warning to the present generation, but the following verses hark back to the past and then become an oracle in which the Lord admonishes his people directly. I'll talk more about that once we get through those verses.
Sure. All right. Do not harden your hearts as at Meribah, as on the day at Massa in the wilderness. So,
these place names...
Yes, that's the water from the rock stuff.
Yes, meaning dispute and testing. Massa is testing, Meribah is dispute. Appear in Exodus 17:7 as the story of the Israelites' resentful plea for water in the wilderness. One of the earliest of the episodes of murmuring, it is invoked here typologically as an image of Israel's wayward, rebellious behavior through all the generations. Perhaps the implicit connection with the acclaiming of God's kingship in the first part of the poem is that Israel can authentically recognize God as king only by obedience to his commands.
When your fathers put me to the test and put me to the proof, though they had seen my work. For 40 years I loathed that generation.
This is an obvious reference to God's decree after the incident of the 10 faint-hearted spies in Numbers 14.
Yep, the spies.
That the people would have to wander in the wilderness 40 years until the whole refractory generation had died out.
Yeah. And said, "They are a people who go astray in their heart, and they have not known my ways. Therefore I swore in my wrath, they shall not enter my rest." So here's the weird thing. So when he sees these people, like referencing in the past, those people with Moses, when he's referencing those people, he was saying that, they were so bad that he just gave up on them, basically. But repeatedly, we are told, or at least, some lamenting Jew would be told, that God will never give up on them as long as they're faithful.
Yeah, 40 years,
But
whatever.
these people are of a wayward heart. And they
Yeah,
did
I
not
guess.
know his ways.
Yeah, I guess.
So they're not faithful.
But the thing is, there's always supposed to be that chance for redemption, basically.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm sure there were some of those guys that were lived the 40 years and managed to get redeemed afterwards.
Well, the thing is,
Lucky them.
only two people made it, right?
Well, that's right. Yeah.
Caleb and Joshua
Mm.
of the original generation.
There's a bit more here in Eerdmans. Verses 8 through 11 have to do with the wilderness tradition as the reason for the Lord's wrath. Through the use of the words Meribah and Massa, Exodus 17, 1 through 7, and Numbers 21 through 13, the entire wilderness period is encompassed. History is reinterpreted and brought alive, the object being to admonish the people of the day. This could be called a didactic use of history. The Lord's dissatisfaction with his people is expressed in various ways. In addition to using the words, I loathed, the psalmist accentuates the extent of this discontent by the expression 40 years and the neutral term that generation. God's disgust with his people culminates in the oath he takes, verse 11, that they will not enter his rest. This word refers...
And, of course, that is why the show today is called Ain't No Rest for the Wicked.
Of course. But it's a reference to entering into the promised land.
Yeah.
The last stanza stands in an antithetical relation to the first one. In contrast to all the praiseworthy things the Lord has done in stanza 1, the behavior of the Lord's people has been contemptible, stanza 2. The function of the contrast and consequently of the whole of the psalm is to warn the readers/listeners that their association with the Lord should not be taken for granted. This is achieved by contrasting the Lord's praiseworthiness and greatness and the people's history of failure.
Yeah, a little bit of a history of failure there. Can't say they didn't. But that was, in fact, the end of Psalm 95.
Yes, if you're enjoying the stream so far, like, subscribe, comment, etc. We have an Amazon wish list.
That's true. We do have an Amazon wish
Check
list.
that out.
The link is in the description.
We read those.
Woo.
We'll get to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of books in the Amazon wish list that we would be reading on this.
It's exclusively books.
Is it?
Yeah.
Oh. We should put more stuff on the wish list.
No, I think exclusively books
Like
is
a
good.
bookshelf.
Like a bookshelf. I guess we could put a bookshelf
like
on.
a bookshelf. Like, I don't know, more cameras, better equipment.
I think we're all right for
Right
equipment for now.
I'm very satisfied
Yeah.
with our level of equipment. We dumped another 2,000
Yes.
in with the
All-
TVs and
All
the
the
stuff. So.
audio stuff was $1,000.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then I got more wires and another TV
And we couldn't
stuff.
have gotten any of that and have this, it's fairly high production quality.
I'd give it 2 ranks above amateur. That's better, right?
Great. We couldn't have done any of that without you, the supporters, the
Yes.
viewers.
Thank you. We're here because of viewers like you.
We're not PBS.
We are not PBS.
This
They would not allow us on PBS.
is not PBS.
We are not sponsored by
No,
PBS.
they're sponsored by a lot of people.
Mountain Dew, please sponsor us.
Please, really.
All right, let's
Or
continue.
Brisk. I think they're owned by the same one.
Let's hop into the last psalm of the day, Psalm 96.
Yeah, let's do it. Oh, sing unto the Lord a new song. Sing unto the Lord all the earth. Sing unto the Lord, bless his name, show forth his salvation from day to day. Declare his glory among the heathen.
Why are you singing it?
It's a psalm.
He's saying to sing it.
Fine.
He says, oh, sing unto the Lord a new song, right? So, declare his glory among the heathen, his wonders among all people. For the Lord is great and greatly to be praised. He is to be feared above all gods.
Here's actually something kind of cool. So, in this celebration of God's majesty, it is, of course, in the interests of the psalm poet to proclaim that this is a fresh and original composition.
Oh, hold on.
Thank you. In point of fact, it is a weaving together of phrases and whole lines that appear elsewhere. Yair Hoffman actually characterizes it as a mosaic of lines drawn from familiar psalms. The very familiarity, of course, might have enhanced its accessibility to the Israelite worship. So yeah.
Yeah, it's original.
Oh, sing a new song.
Yep, not a
This
new
is
song.
my original character, Cernic. Do
Yeah.
not steal.
Yeah. For all the gods of the nations are idols, but the Lord made the heavens. Honor and majesty are before him. Strength and beauty are in his sanctuary. Give unto the Lord, O ye kindreds of the people. Give unto the Lord glory and strength. Give unto the Lord the glory due unto his name. Bring an offering and come into his courts. O worship the Lord in the beauty of holiness. Fear before him all the earth. Say among the heathen that the Lord reigneth. The world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved. He shall judge the people righteously.
Hold on.
No.
What verses were those?
Verse 10.
Thank you,
The
Paris.
world also shall be established,
Okay.
that it shall not be moved.
Yes. Also, thank you, Paris 0650 for abandoning God.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Paris.
All right, let's go back a little bit because I totally missed something and I thought we were somewhere else. That was silly of me. So, on for great is the Lord and most praised. Fearsome is he over all the gods.
Yep.
For-
Verse 4.
yeah. So we're going back there.
Oh, okay. I'm at verse like
I know
10.
where you are. I said I missed something.
Okay.
Yeah, for all the gods of the peoples are ungods, but the Lord has made the heavens. So, for this note, the previous line, fearsome is he over all the gods, which also has a close parallel in Psalm 95:3, looks as though it is a line inherited from an early stratum of Hebrew poetry. In this case, the psalmist immediately attaches a kind of monotheistic rejoinder to it by asserting that all the other gods have no real existence. Ungods, El-Elim, is a polemic coinage that appears frequently elsewhere, punningly formed on all, which is no or not, and El, God, obviously, to which a diminutive or pejorative suffix is appended. The standard meaning of the term in all subsequent Hebrew is idols. I just thought that was really neat.
Yeah. Say among the heathen that the Lord reigneth. The world also shall be established, that it shall not be moved. He shall
guys,
judge the people
Hold
righteously.
on.
Ooh,
We
wow.
just got $50.
Paris.
Thank you.
Wow.
So
Thank you
much.
so
Very much, Paris.
We
Wow.
are on our way to alchemy, baby.
We are
We're
on our
really
way to
close. Well, almost like $550.
Where's my pencil?
I don't know.
Either
Here,
way.
catch. Hey, that one worked. Last time was
Do the sound effects.
which one?
Clapping one. Yeah. You caught
Thank you.
it.
Congrats.
Wonderful.
And thank you very much as well.
Yes, thank you
thank
so
you.
much for the alchemy. Booyah.
Booyah! All right. Let the heavens rejoice, and let the earth be glad. Let the sea roar, and the fullness thereof. Let the field be joyful, and all that is therein. Then shall all the trees of the wood rejoice before the Lord. Well, they break it off really strangely.
Fair
here.
enough.
Like verse 12 ends with, then shall all the trees of the wood rejoice. There's no period. And then verse 13 starts with capitalized B, before the Lord.
Ah, okay.
For he cometh to judge the earth. He shall judge the world with righteousness and the people with his truth. And that is the end of Psalm 96.
Yes. So here are just a few notes here. So the psalm sweeps to a climax in the third strophe with a personification. The entire creation is urged to break into an expression of exuberant joy, just like they did at the beginning of the psalm.
Yeah.
Since the Lord is coming to judge the earth. The verb judge, which is used twice, does not refer to a negative destructive action on part of the Lord. It also has nothing to do with the last judgment. In the context of this psalm, it is part of the Lord's royal task as an expression of his ability to ensure justice and stability. So it's not about, end time stuff.
Right.
And then it continues. This psalm would fit in well with the difficult post-exilic period when it must have been important for the people to hear that the Lord reigns, that he is more powerful than the gods, and that Israel has a responsibility toward the nations.
Yeah.
So
Well.
that is that.
Wonderful. Man, I'm glad that we're getting close to the end.
Honestly,
Psalms.
these past few Psalms, excluding the shorter ones, honestly, have been rather interesting to me.
Yeah, they've been all right.
I really liked Psalm 90 in the middle. I said that earlier, but since we're at the end, I'll bring it up again.
Yeah.
And I liked Psalm 94 as well. I think it was bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well.
it seems like the Psalms have become more and more interesting. Because, what was it, the second Psalter? Was that the really boring one?
Yeah, the second Psalter was fucking awful.
Okay, I remember there were a decent amount of interesting things in the first Psalter.
Yeah.
And
And the third
third
Psalter
was a hit or-
all right.
Yeah.
I think it was hit or miss with the third one for me.
Yeah, so there's a very, it's a nice curve
How many
to
more
this.
Psalms are in
Yeah.
the fourth one? And
It's
how
like
many Psalters are in
There
Psalms?
are probably
by the
there-
way?
five
there's
Psalters,
and
yeah.
we're on
Five.
4. Okay. all
Yeah.
right.
it runs parallel to the Bible.
Yeah.
Well, to the Torah.
Sure. So,
I wonder, though, if they went that into it, right? If we followed the chapter counts with the different books of the
interesting.
Torah, is there any parallelism?
I don't know. Because, of course, they're different for the Masoretic and the Septuagint, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I got to say, learning about the hierarchy of the structure of the Bible has found to be more interesting through Psalms.
Mm.
Yeah, it's always really difficult with Psalms because they lack so much specific information.
Mhm. But yeah, that's the end of the show for today.
Yeah.
If you enjoyed this stream, subscribe to us. Check
Drop-
us out everywhere.
Yeah,
BitChute.
on BitChute, yes. Drop a like if you haven't already, because that really does help us out, or a dislike. Doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Pimp Monk is here. Hello, Pimp Monk.
Yeah. Check us out on Fridays, too. The Friday Apocryphal Podcast, where we're doing First Maccabees right now.
Yeah. What else do we have going on? We got
Parallels are always amazing between when we did Enoch. There seemed to be
Yeah,
a lot of
yeah.
drawing, and
Yeah.
there
Definitely.
currently is quite a bit, especially we
But that's
didn't know-
mostly-
there was the Psalm specifically that was a Maccabean period dated Psalm.
Sure.
Which
And
we
so-
didn't plan.
We didn't. No, of course
advance.
not.
Yeah,
so
and
it was very nice to see the drawing.
most of
Yeah.
the reason for that is because the Psalms are meant to be read out of pretty much any time you need them.
Mhm.
They're very few of them are for specific contexts.
Other than
So-
that one with the shield today, that was like summon 60,000 angels. Boy, that's a
Oh,
good
yeah, that's a
shield
lot, yeah.
Yeah,
buckler
yeah.
spell.
You know, if you're looking through the Psalms, it over time appears more and more like a spell book. You know?
I was
A
saying the
little
small
bit.
rituals.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a bunch of rituals.
Yeah, it is
like-
technically magic, but not in like the stereotypical.
Well, it's
way of
closer
I
to.
think it's-
hold on, it's closer to the cleric magic from Dungeons and Dragons, where they themselves don't cast any of the spells; they just ask for divine favor to do so.
Well,
Yeah, it's much closer to Egyptian magic.
I think it's extraordinarily close to Western.
Was it
occultism.
delivered? Was it delivered by ancient Egyptian magic?
Like, if you look at Western occultists, I've attended more than a few Western occult
Yes.
ceremonies, and you know they just do this stuff like this. They're like, "Oh, Baal, I call out to you in your glorious name
Like our
to
demon
deliver
summoning.
unto
Check that
me
out.
these things. May your deliveries be ever prosperous and bountiful. Oh, great Baal." Yeah, it's exactly the same.
Sure. But I think that's just kind of how, like, when we have a stereotypical view of magic, a very caricatured view.
Right, where it's like,
but
woo.
yeah, but exactly. But like ancient magic is just different. They just treated it differently.
Yeah.
It had like the same outcomes basically, but it was just very different in nature.
Some of them, even with the Thanksgivings rituals and the forgiveness and penance stuff, with the bloodletting and the burning, really feel more like ritualistic practice than anything else. I mean, it hasn't been brought up a lot, but the other prayers are definitely also a form of ritual, but they're more akin to like a meditative ritual. I think.
Yeah, like
really depends on the situation.
when we were doing the demon summoning thing, right? That's like a lot of repetitions of the same thing over and over. You get like the frankincense and myrrh in your system,
which I really liked, and I'm kind of sad I ran out of.
Yeah.
It was a good smell. It kept mosquitoes away for other people. I never
Sure.
had problems with them usually, but everybody was happy that the mosquitoes were away when it was out. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Not everybody was happy with the smell. I guess people associate with church, right?
I mean, I was fine with the smell.
My basement smelled like that for weeks. I'm sure the
weeks.
What was
There
it?
was so much smoke in here.
It was
Yeah.
It was a day and a half of smoke afterwards in any specific part of that area of the basement. Yeah.
Yeah.
I also think that because of the fog machine that we used, it kind of combined and stuck to things, so
Yeah.
it smelled longer.
Yeah.
Right.
Anyways,
But I mean, they're not outright rituals in the Psalms. They are definitely invocations.
yeah. Because when you talk about petitions to God,
Yeah.
the very very thin line between those.
And I would not be surprised if some of these psalms, like the amulet psalm, I would
Yeah.
not be surprised if that were like written on a small scroll that someone wears around their neck.
Sure, yeah.
Or something like that.
As an
at some
inscription
point.
on a necklace or
Yeah.
a bracelet
Yeah.
or even
Or as the Egyptians had, actual amulets.
yeah.
Yeah.
Either way, thank you everyone for joining us today.
Facebook,
Of course,
Twitter,
hold
Patreon.
on, I'll do this. Like, share, subscribe if you haven't. All that stuff really helps us out. Facebook, Twitter, it is free to follow us on those. So go ahead and do that. You have no reason not to. And also Patreon. If you like what we do, want to support us with monthly donations, you can get a lot of cool rewards. You could get books, and you can get T-shirts. We just gave away a T-shirt today.
Access
That's right.
to our scripts.
Yeah.
And,
Access to our
Landon,
scripts.
we
If
got
you
to think of a new
donate-
shirt.
$10,000 in 1 month, if you live within
The continental United States.
United States, one of us will fly out and give you either a high five or a handshake,
Whatever you're comfortable with.
something like that. All it costs is $10,000.
Either way. So you got a lot of cool stuff on Patreon. And if you're a $1 patron, you get access to our scripts. And if you want to be on the show, even, you could do that. There's a patron tier for that.
Yeah.
A lot of cool stuff over there. Link is in the description.
And our Amazon wish list is
Yes.
really cool. It has a lot of books on it, which we will be using on our various shows and projects.
Yes.
Look forward to Saints projects as well. Those are still coming up.
Yep.
Yeah, we're
I've
all
done a little
working
bit
on-
more research on it, but I plan to spend more than the 6 hours I've done. That's about all. I was sick for a week as well, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I definitely renewed those books once I got from the library as well. So
Yep.
look
Yeah.
forward to a script on that, patrons, and probably towards the end of March, I should have either a proto episode or it'll be out by then.
Sure. Either way, we're all working on
Great
decent amount of
stuff.
stuff. Yeah.
Great stuff. But I think that's about all for our
Teespring.
shilling. Oh, yeah. Our wacky and fun t-shirts. By the way, make a wacky and fun t-shirt.
Yeah, get right on that.
Yeah.
I'll work on it.
Like a
Thanks.
really stereotypical, like,
It's written in Joker.
Yeah. Or Comic Sans.
Wingdings 3.
We could use like some clip art of some sparks or something.
It'll look great.
Like little stars flying off of it.
Yeah.
Like wacky
And fun.
Like a little smiley face clip art. Just like the lame.
God, this is sounding horrible. That's a horrible shirt.
It would be wacky.
And it would be fun?
Yeah, it would.
Okay.
I don't think Landon would wear that willingly.
Either way, next week we're going to have Landon on the show also.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right, so Sunday for that as well.
Yeah.
Yep.
And Friday, Pockful podcast in between. Don't forget, folks.
Yeah, but we are still covering First Maccabees. We are slowly making our way through it. Actually, you know what? How many chapters long?
Like 16, I think.
Really?
I think. I could be wrong.
Yeah. It's 16 chapters in First Maccabees, and we've covered 4 so far, which means we're a quarter of the way through.
Didn't even consider it.
Yeah, that's true.
I was just enjoying Maccabees compared to most of Psalms.
Yeah, I told you that Maccabees is short. I did.
Well, the chapters are pretty long.
And the commentaries are longer.
Well, it
Yeah.
isn't even that the chapters are long. It's that the commentaries are ridiculous.
Yeah, that's true. The commentary is just nuts, but it's great to have in-depth commentary.
Yes.
When we actually, if you want more commentary on that, we have books on our wish list that are commentaries on Maccabees.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
We'd have like 6 episodes of retrospect to get over.
That's fine. Either way, that is going to be the end of the show for today. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And
We will see you on Friday, really,
but this
then
says
Sunday.
see you on Sunday.
We'll see
Right
you on
there.
both. Thanks for joining us.
See ya. Love
See
you.
you on both.